Hello, dear followers, and welcome back to Whispers of Turkish Stars. Settle in, because everything you want to know is right here, and tonight's story has the entire entertainment world holding its breath. Before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed and ready, because what unfolded on live television last night is the kind of moment everyone will remember. Turkish show business was rattled as one of its most admired names sat beneath the bright studio lights and chose raw honesty over silence. It was not planned drama, not a teaser for a series, not a press statement crafted by a publicist. It was an open heart. And it was Elcin Sangu. The broadcast started calmly, the host careful with every question, but it took a sharp, unforgettable turn when Elcin, with a voice steady at first and trembling later, decided to say what she had kept under wraps for far too long. She breathed in, gathered herself, and spoke like someone who had reached the edge of a long night. "I can't live with this weight anymore," she said. "I've tried to keep my peace, to keep quiet, to hold it all in, but I've reached my limit." The studio hush was thick, the cameras leaned in, the audience forgot to blink. It wasn't a confession made for theatrics, it was pain choosing daylight. The word she used landed like a bell tolling through the room: betrayal. It wasn't shouted. It didn't need to be. The depth behind it said enough. She explained that she had been carrying the ache of a trust that had been bent, chipped, tested, and, in her eyes, broken. She didn't turn the moment into a spectacle, didn't offer names, didn't provide the salacious details that gossip thrives on. But she did reveal that what wounded her came from close enough to shake her confidence in the ground beneath her feet. It was a revelation that stunned the audience and sent a tremor through viewers at home. This wasn't just a star with a headline. This was a woman telling the world that something sacred to her had been cracked. In that moment, every word moved with care. Elcin described how trust and loyalty aren't nice extras in a bond, they are the scaffolding, the bedrock, the compass. When those things are challenged, you can't simply smile and keep filming. You can't pretend. She showed the courage to say that what happened felt, to her, unforgivable. Not because she wanted to stir trouble, not because she wanted to attack, but because she needed to honor the reality of her emotions. She made it clear that she wouldn't be dragged into spilling every private detail simply to feed curiosity. Instead, she chose to speak only as far as necessary, enough to protect her inner calm, enough to tell the truth without tearing anyone down. The name on everyone's lips, even in silence, was of course Baris. Their names have been intertwined in public consciousness for years. Co-stars whose chemistry is legendary, partners in storytelling whose dynamic has been the anchor of unforgettable scenes, and two people whose friendship and mutual respect have inspired endless admiration. On the broadcast, Elcin never accused him. She never pointed any finger at anyone. Yet the air grew heavy with the question of where he stood, what he felt, and why he had chosen to remain quiet as rumors picked up speed. The host asked about the pressure of speculation and how it changes the way you move through your days. Elcin nodded and spoke about how silence can be dignity and how sometimes it can be misunderstood. She urged everyone not to weaponize it. In a single sentence, she gave the entire night its spine: "I am choosing honesty because I want to protect my peace." Those words didn't come like a dramatic twist, they came like a boundary being set in daylight. She admitted that the past weeks had been heavy. She hadn't been sleeping. She hadn't been breathing easily. Public life can force a smile onto a face that hasn't been okay for a long time, but she refused to let that be her story any longer. The tremble in her voice turned to clarity as she said she had to put herself first. Not for the headlines, not for the audience, but for the human being behind the camera lens. Within minutes, her statements spread across social media like sparks catching dry grass. Clips from the broadcast were everywhere, on fan pages, on news accounts, in group chats. Support poured in, heartfelt and relentless. Thousands of messages thanked her for speaking up, for defending boundaries that so many people struggle to defend in their own lives. People who had followed her work for years shared how much her grace had meant to them, how they admired the courage it takes to face a storm without becoming a storm yourself. And still, the conversation kept circling back to what was not said, the other half of the story, the silent half. Baris's name trended as the broadcast ended, and the debate came in waves. Some called his silence thoughtful and respectful, a way of refusing to turn a private moment into public theater. Others wondered if the silence created more questions than answers. Commentators analyzed old interviews and red carpet moments, tracing their shared history and the care they'd always shown each other. People replayed every smile, every embrace, every pause between words, searching for clues that were never really there to begin with. It's what happens when two people become symbols of a particular kind of magic. Every gesture turns into a verse, every glance into a paragraph. Back in the studio, the host asked if this moment meant an ending, a turning of the page, a fracture beyond repair. Elcin didn't grandstand. She reminded everyone that not every chapter in life is meant for public annotation. She reiterated that there are things she will never reveal, things that will remain hers no matter how loudly the world demands to read them. Then, with the soft force of someone who knows exactly what she means, she returned to that central truth: trust is a foundation. And when something shakes it, you don't pretend the building isn't swaying. You step outside. You assess. You listen to the walls. What made the night so powerful wasn't scandal. It was dignity. It was the refusal to turn pain into spectacle. It was a woman sitting in a chair in front of millions and insisting that boundaries are not cruelty, that honesty is not attack, that protecting one's peace is not selfish. She did not throw anyone under the bus, she did not invite a pile-on. She asked for space and understanding, and in doing so, she reminded a nation that love, in all its forms, requires respect to survive. As the hours passed and the internet hummed, something else began to happen. Fans started sharing messages for both of them, for Elcin, in recognition of her vulnerability, and for Baris, in recognition of the quiet steadiness he has often embodied. People who have cherished their on-screen magic wrote about how real connection is never simple, how two people can care deeply and still need time apart to recalibrate. The conversation shifted from finger-pointing to reflection. It became less about assigning blame and more about honoring the truth that relationships, whether personal or professional, are living things that need air, clarity, and care. By morning, the broadcast had become the story of the day, replayed and dissected across media outlets. Analysts described it as a watershed moment for celebrity culture in Turkey, a rare instance of a star refusing to package pain as a neatly marketable product. The headlines shouted and whispered and pleaded, but the essence was simple: a brave woman chose to put her well-being first. The ripple effects were enormous. Fans debated the couple's future, speculating whether the chapter ahead would be a quiet rebuilding, a cool-down period, or a brave new direction for both of them. The only certainty was uncertainty, and somehow, that felt honest too. What can we take from this? That honesty, even when it shakes the ground, can be the firmest step forward. That silence, too, can be meaningful, sometimes as a shield, sometimes as a promise. And that public figures, no matter how adored, are not stories to be authored by strangers. They are people, grappling with the same fragile materials the rest of us do: trust, hope, fear, longing. When they allow us to see that, it's a privilege, not an invitation to trespass. For all who have followed their journey on screen and beyond, the night offered more than gossip. It offered a reminder that respect is the greatest way to love someone from afar. Whether you lean toward the idea of reconciliation or growth in separate spaces, the message is the same: honor what is real, and let time do its work. In a world that prefers neat endings, sometimes the bravest choice is to leave the page open. Before the cameras cut, the host asked one last question, carefully, almost a whisper: what do you want your supporters to remember from tonight? Elcin smiled, a real smile, not the kind you paste on. Remember that peace is precious, she said. Remember that I'm sharing this not to divide, but to heal. Those words completed the circle. The broadcast ended not with an explosion, but with a quiet exhale that seemed to drift through living rooms across the country. And so, dear viewers, that is where we are tonight, standing at the edge of a moment that will linger. This story will continue to dominate headlines, inspire threads, and fuel endless theories. But beneath all the chatter is a simple truth that matters more than any speculation: a person drew a boundary and reclaimed her calm. If you felt the weight of her words, you weren't alone. If you felt protective of both of them, you weren't alone either. Here at Whispers of Turkish Stars, we'll keep following this with respect, humanity, and an eye for what truly matters in the storm of celebrity. Thank you for watching, for listening with empathy, and for choosing to see the people behind the spotlight. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories from the Turkish entertainment world. Stories told not just for the thrill of it, but for the heart of it. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Goodbye for now. We love you.